Welcome to We Solve Problems with your host, James D. Bennett II. In each episode, we'll share educational insights to motivate manufacturers to innovate. You can find this show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on www.innovativsolutions.org. Now here's the host of We Solve Problems, James D. Bennett II.
Good morning, and welcome to the We Solve Problems podcast, where we inform of the existing technology, the trend of the R&D for that technology, and the financial incentive to help mitigate risk of innovation. I'm your host, James Bennett. Today, we're talking about disruptive innovation with Ms. Christy Garcia, Director of the Entrepreneur Innovation Center at Framingham State University in Boston. Ms. Garcia, could you give us a brief summary of your background, please?
Oh, first of all, thank you so much, James, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here today with you and your amazing audience. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Brazil. I have been working the innovation arena since 2007, so a few years, trying to solve problems. And I love the name of your podcast, We Solve Problems. So that's why innovators should do.
Yes.
And I have been working, as I mentioned, in the innovation field as a innovation consultant, also as an innovation and entrepreneurship professor. And recently, I had the chance to join Framingham State University as the director of the Entrepreneur Innovation Center. And here I have been supporting our students to be more innovative and also the local community, how to solve their problems. So that's a little bit about myself.
And that is why we have you on as a guest today, and why I believe it's important to hear what you have to say.
Thank you.
Today's podcast in the context, since the term disruptive innovation was coined in the early 1990s lexicon, the term has become one of the most misunderstood and misapplied terms in business. We now live in a world of ubiquitous choices and opportunities where new products and services are launched at an ever-increasing pace. If you think about it, this is because of the accelerated access of information, resulting in the proliferation of ideas, discoveries, and new uses for technology fueled by innovation. Accelerated access to information leaves an even wider gate for the innovation ahead, wherein every industry will be affected by the swift changes, which will force companies to adapt. In this podcast, we'll help you understand what disruptive innovation is, how to take advantage of ideas, and introduce structure to help prepare ideas and make them practical for application. Now, Ms. Garcia, I have heard both terms used, innovation of disruptive innovation and disruptive technology. Can you tell us what is the difference between disruptive innovation and disruptive technology?
And I think that's a good question. Thank you for asking that, James, because I think when Professor Clayton Christensen first established this concept of disruptive innovation, after many discussions in the academic and the business area, many couldn't understand this difference. And some mixed the concept of disruptive innovation with technology. And disruptive innovation is not just about technology. It's as a combination of technology and business model innovation. So that's the main difference. And disruptive technology can be something powerful or not so powerful, depending on the business model that is going to be used to implement that. So for the disruptive innovation theory, the technologies is something that is going to facilitate or enable your business model to happen and succeed. And it's not just by itself, technology could solve any problems with considering this theory.
I see. Okay, so now we have an idea out there, and of course we want to take it to the marketplace. But what are the market types that disruptive innovation tend to penetrate or serve, and describe their nature?
Yeah, disruptive innovation can be applied in many, many different markets and fields. And some used to consider that disruptive innovation couldn't be applied, for example, in a service markets like hotels, uh, restaurants, that they could not be disruptive. But when we saw like Airbnb, for example, this is a disruption in the hotel and hospitality industry. So disruptive innovation can be applied in, as I mentioned, it's not just about technology, it's about business model. And also uh, something that is not like covered if we, and it's not disruptive is when we are just talking about a low end disruption. So if you are just doing something like simple, and this is something about the concept before I get into this, is like to be disruptive, you need to make something simpler, you need to do something more affordable, and that is more accessible. So those are the three main elements to be disruptive. So you are accessing a market that is like the incumbents are not like taking a lot of attention on that. So when we talk about to be more affordable, it's not just make something cheaper that you're gonna be disruptive. You need to have a business model that you're gonna leverage the access for or you're gonna break some barriers that prevent consumers to have access to something, some products or services. So, and usually when we talk about different markets, especially those markets very traditional and like mining sector or like you can think that, oh, those are established markets that cannot be disrupted until something happened, until something could like found out a different way to solve the problem that that industry has been solving. So that's the main point for in terms of type of industries that can be disrupted.
So it could be some well-established markets, and it could be some new markets that your that your idea can be bringing to the table, so to speak.
Yeah, and sometimes it's interesting because when we think about like the disruptive innovation, and Professor Christensen, he divided the type of innovations in three types.
Mhm.
Like disruptive innovation, that when you're doing something simpler, more accessible, less time consuming, something like that.
Mhm.
The second time of the type of innovation is sustained innovation, that is like keeping your as a lead of your market and getting the same type of consumers that you have been doing, or providing a better service for your current consumers and clients. The third type of innovation is the efficiency innovation, that where you're reducing your costs to get a better margins. And there is no like what is the best type of innovation. There is no best type of innovation. You should have a balanced portfolio of your innovation strategy, and usually you're going to have much more sustained innovation in your portfolio than disruptive innovations. But you need to pay attention to have at least, and I would say the percentage should be like 80% of sustaining efficiency innovation and at least 20% of disruptive innovation. So you can keep your competitiveness more competitive, and to be prepared for any disruption that your market can suffer from a new entrant, or some new companies or startup that could disrupt your market.
Okay, so now that we have a pretty good understanding of the markets and the different types of markets that we can bring our idea to, well, how do you recognize whether or not you have an innovative idea with potential for any of those markets?
I think the potential for like for any market, if you can see like when a specific market is like the technologies over serving that market, so the consumers are not prepared to incorporate all the technology available. So right now we have the AI, and I would say that we are, as a consumer of like the technology or many resource that we have available in terms like how to be more productive or more efficient, we are not able to absorb all the technology available when we are talking about AI. So the disruption is ready to happen when you have this overserved market, but you also keep like people that don't have any access to that market, or that they are not prepared to absorb that market. So if you start to make the things more simple and more accessible, you can reach out that gap that you have between like this very high technology resource and the underserved or non-consumers that are not included in that specific market right now.
Okay, so do I understand you saying then you have to find a gap, and once you find that gap, the simpler the idea is, the more marketable it might be. Something that's going to solve a problem or bridge a gap.
Yes, it's a gap, and especially when to see opportunities for disruption is always to look for unsolved problems, or like see like what we call like non-consumers, like people that are excluded of that market or are not able to have access to that market. And the type and first of all, we need to look for barriers that are preventing those consumers to have access to some kind of products or service. And usually we have 4, or I added that's not in the like classic theory. That's the 5th type of barrier, but I used to count with 5 barriers that prevent consumers to have access to some products or services. So first of all, money. Of course, that's the basic barrier when you cannot afford for a product or a service because it's very expensive. But we have more barriers, like time. You don't have time. You don't have time to go to a bank, to be in a line, to wait for your bank manager to serve you. So you don't have time. You don't have capability. You don't know. You don't have the basic knowledge. So, and sometimes it's something that, especially in underserved communities or in emerging markets, you are not trained to use some technologies. Mm-hmm. The 4th barrier, access. You don't have access. For example, talking about my home country, 5G technology. This is something that the government announced that, we're going to have 5G technology to everybody. So it's giving accessibility. But how many people can afford a smartphone over there to have access and to take advantage from a 5G technology? And the 5th barrier that I used to add to these 4 traditional barriers is culture. So sometimes you're not using a product or service because it's not incorporating your country or religious or your family tradition. So that's something that could be also a barrier to incorporate or to have access to a product or service.
Okay, I see. So then we have barriers then that we are faced with when we introduce this technology into the marketplace. Now, in previous podcasts, we talked about different forms of patent monetization and organizing resources for a strategic planning opportunity in order to capitalize on market opportunities. Now that we have an idea out there, what's the framework that should be followed to bring that idea to life and overcome some of these barriers, like jobs to be done, business models, interdependence, or modularity, and maybe the process of strategy? What kind of a framework or structure should be formed and followed to bring the idea to life?
Yeah, first of all, like looking for problems, and so when you look for problems and look for like those barriers, and especially if you can see like people incorporate workarounds because they don't have access to products or services. This is the first thing. So to look for problems and not to be to design your solution on the first hand. Mm-hmm. So as soon as you have this understanding about what type of barriers are preventing people to access to and to solve their problems, having access to a product or service, you will start to understand what are these people looking for. So that's what we call like the jobs to be done framework. So when you start to think what is the job that you need to accomplish when you're solving that problem that is going to overcome to make that person or people to overcome those barriers, you need to understand what job you're accomplishing. So this is a second part of this framework. When you apply this job to be done theory, that you are going to understand. For example, I used to have an example that, okay, I love to go to hair salon, manicures, and usually people think, oh, why I'm providing this like a beauty service? Oh, because Christy wants to be presentable for her podcast. But it's not the truth. I love to go to the hair salon and manicure because I love to talk to people. So the job that they are doing for me is not just like make my hair or a manicure. It's about talking. It's about people relations. So that's something that innovators should be aware that sometimes if you are providing something, there is something behind that. That's the job that you're actually the job that the consumer is trying to accomplish. So the second point is to have this. Third point, to have a different type of strategy. Strategy is something very important in this process because usually people think, oh, strategy is something that I'm going to design. I'm going to have my milestones, my goals, and if you don't have flexibility when you're trying to disrupt a market and to think about emerging strategy, that's something that is going to happen and something that could be different from your initial idea, you don't have you'll be stuck in your in the previous situation. So to have this kind of flexible strategy that I call that's emerging strategy will guarantee you that you're gonna put the right amount of resource in the right steps that you need to accomplish to have your business in place. So if you have this very clear, what is your initial strategy, but you can have like some changes in your during your journey, then you're gonna put the right money in the right efforts that you need to accomplish. Next step, pricing. So remember that I mentioned that to be disruptive, you need to be more affordable. And sometimes people think, oh, how am I going to be affordable or less expensive than the current solution and keep my profitability? So that's the way that when we apply what we call like inverted balance sheet. So instead to start like what is your forecasted revenue, you're going to start what is your profitability margin that you want to guarantee. Based on that, you're going to set up your costs, your business plan based on the profitability that you want to have with your product. So those are like and also always integrate. That's part of what you mentioned, like about modularity and integrated framework, because sometimes when you're trying to disrupt an existing market, you will not have all the infrastructure or the resource available to guarantee that you're going to have the right resource allocation, the right profitability. So when you will start to integrate your business model and provide the whole package solution, you're going to guarantee that you can have the job that your consumer is looking for done. So those are the main steps. Of course, we can add some other phase to this framework, but basically I would say that those are the main points to be observed when we are try to be disruptive.
Let's see. Well, we have some up and running identified disruptive innovations such as Uber and Amazon. Do you think those two innovations will be explosive, any more explosive down the line? Why not?
First of all, disruption is always relative. So you need to compare the incumbents that right now I would say that Uber and Amazon, they are incumbents. They are already established in the current market. So they are providing the service. They have and they keep investing in their sustained innovations. So they are just growing their current consumer base. And if they don't pay attention in something that could disrupt their market, they could fail. And Google is a good example with the AI and ChatGPT and OpenAI. Even though OpenAI and with their ChatGPT, they don't have, I would say, they don't have a established business model yet. They don't know how to leverage their money or to their profitability with the technology. They have been selling the application to other platforms, but as like the ChatGPT is still free and you can access, and as the business model for Google used to be to include ads to your search, and ChatGPT doesn't give you any source of information to include this as an ad or as a advertisement that you could pay for it or they could charge for it. So Google is in a turning point that if they don't incorporate the AI technology or to rethink their business model based on the AI technology, they could be disrupted by OpenAI. So that's one of the points. So when we talk about Uber, also besides all the problems that we have seen them suffer with regulations and many other problems that they face as innovators, I would say, but they need to pay attention that if the autonomous vehicles can be disruptive to their business at certain point.
I see.
So,
all right. Well, just tell us, given everything we've spoken about to this point, do you have a latest project that you worked on that you deemed that it is successful? Is it coming down the line, or is it in place where the structure has been set up and you're pretty much ready to push it out the door? Or do you have any successful projects that you're working on?
I recently I had the chance to work with some Brazilian disruptors, and especially thinking about how to be disruptive in emerging markets. And this is not and people would think, oh, it's hard to be disruptive in an emerging market like Brazil or in Africa or in many poor countries that we have around the world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. We have so many opportunities, and people always ask me, oh, what is the next trend? What is the next wave for disruption? I would say that no, the next is just look for the problems that are still waiting to be solved. And about the case that I had the chance to work on, I love one of the Brazilian cases in the affordable housing. That the name is Vivenda. The company's name is Vivenda, and instead to build new homes for people that could afford, in Brazil has a lot of favelas and underserved communities that live in a very underserved situation. They decide to provide renovation service for Brazilian underserved communities. And they integrate their business model, providing since the project, like the plan, the design of the renovation, through the funding, like how to finance the renovation. So they integrate the whole value chain in order to provide an affordable service for underserved communities around the Brazilian favelas and underserved communities. So that's one a wonderful example how to be disrupted. They are disrupting not in terms of like how they are not getting clients from other established companies. They are getting clients from nobody, because they are serving people that didn't have access to this type of service before. So people couldn't afford to have like a bathroom inside their homes before Vivenda established their service. So right now they have been providing this renovation service in a very low cost way, in a very integrated way. So people don't need to think about, oh, who is going to design the project? Who is going to work on the project? Who is going to help me to pay for this project? Because they have like this whole integrated process.
Oh.
And we are not here, just one thing, that we are here in this example, we don't talk about technology specifically. Of course, they have a platform that they designed to integrate all the solutions in like one-stop shop, but the technology is just enabling them to provide the service. It's not the main point for them. The main point here is the business model that they established to provide the service.
Good. So, given disruptive innovation, what excites you most about its future, and what keeps you up at night when you come to major problems or predicaments?
As I mentioned, like for me, it's how we can. So we have so many problems out there that could be solved by business solutions, and sometimes I think most innovators, they are looking for to create new needs than to solve problems. So what keeps me wondering, like why we don't use our like business force and business strategy and as opportunities, like to solve those problems as opportunities, not to create needs. So when some and I'm not like saying that we should not have like fun or something else, but when people ask me, oh, can you help me with this my business? I'm trying to launch an app that is gonna help like the nightlifers to look for the best place to hang out, to dance, to drink. Like, okay, but what type of problem are you actually solving? So I'm more concerned like that we could use our entrepreneurial force or our business force to solve real problems that are affecting many or millions of out there. So it's not, and this is not just about like poor countries like in Brazil or Latin America or in Africa. We also have here in US many problems that could be solved by the power of the innovation. So that's what I think about this, to be disruptive. It's to solve some big problems that we have there.
I see. Well, there you have it. The problem is solved. You don't necessarily have to have an idea that is patentable. Take a look at disruptive innovation. You just might have some great idea, the very next Amazon or Uber. With that, we'll have to bring this podcast to an end. I want to express my gratitude to Ms. Garcia for sharing her expertise and insights, and we're honored to have her join us on this podcast. I want to remind those watching to take this opportunity to learn from our guests and strive to achieve their own goals and aspirations. Ms. Garcia, where can we find you for future reference?
Oh, thank you so much, James, to having me today. And it was a pleasure to share some of my ideas, some of my experience working with disruptive innovation. And people can find me at LinkedIn. I'm over there, Christy Garcia. Also, please, if you are in the Boston area and want to launch your disruptive business, come to Framingham State University. We are here to support you on your entrepreneurial journey. Thank you so much.
And thank you for being our guest. I'm
Thank
James Bennett. I can be found at www.innovativesolutions.org. That's innovative with one N, no E, solutions.org. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
You've been tuning into We Solve Problems with your host, James D. Bennett II. Learn more about financial incentives to mitigate the risk to better your products at www.innovativesolutions.org, where you can find other episodes of this show. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this with others.